So, hold on. The board met. Oh, there's a echo.
We gotta mute that. I think that either.
Hello?
You gotta mute it. Not, you have to mute the mic. You just turn the speaker down.
Hello? Report out on closed session topics. The board met in closed session to discuss the closed session items. A, conference with labor negotiators, government code section 54957.6. Agency designated representative Darnice Williams, superintendent. Employee organization Laguna Salada Education Association, LSEA. There was no action taken. B, conference with labor negotiators, government code section 54957.6, agency designated representative Darnice Williams, superintendent. Employee organization, California School Employees Association, or CSEA. There was no action taken. C, conference with labor negotiators, conference code section 54957.6, agency designated superintendent. Employee organization Laguna Salada Management Association, or LSMA. No action was taken. Approval of the consent agenda, and this is an action item. All items on the consent agenda.
You need to have the flag salute and everything.
The flag salute.
Oh, where is it? It's not on here. Sorry. Oh.
You want to do the flag salute?
It is my pleasure to introduce students of Sunset Ridge Elementary School.
No.
IBL.
That was me.
IBL. Mana, I hope I said your name right. Ella, Delaney, Malia, Hope, Ann, and Tyler, who will lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then we'll also read the land acknowledgement.
The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homeland of the relatives and the elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. As the original stewards of this land, the Ramakrishna learning understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, the Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards toward this land.
Hi guys, I just want to tell you about the very exciting things that are happening right now in IBL. So, 5 of our basketball teams just made it to the championships. So I'm so happy about that. So yeah, that's just great though. But unfortunately my team didn't, so that's kind of sad. But I definitely learned about the importance of teamwork and perseverance during when I was going against those really, really good players on the other teams.
At IBL, we'll be celebrating Earth Day by having an assembly hosted by the Pacifica Beach Coalition about whales, and having a Spirit Week led by our leadership in exploratory. Earth Day means a lot to IBL. We are excited to host a booth at EcoFest. The event will take place on Saturday, April 2nd. 20th.
Also happening at IBL is a creative writing competition, where it will have the creating writing, stories, drawings, but mainly be just writing. The theme will be the joy of creation and will be held at IBL April 26th. It's April 26th. This is actually IBL's first annual writing competition.
Okay. Thank you, IBL.
Well done, guys.
Barbara, would you take a roll call? Here.
Here.
Nice job, gotcha.
The district records the audio portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during the time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. In-person speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please provide a request card with your name, address, and the item number and submit it to the board president or superintendent. You will be called to address the board and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Virtual speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please note, the public is welcome to provide comment to the board. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes unless extended or limited by vote of the board. A maximum of 20 minutes unless extended by the board is allocated for each subject discussed. The Brown Act open meeting regulations under which the board must operate do not allow board members to comment on non-agenda items or information you may bring up that are not on the agenda. Additionally, no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a comment. They sure did have fun. Oh, did we already approve the agenda? No. Okay. Approval of the agenda is an action item. It is recommended that the board approve the agenda of the March 13th, 2024 regular meeting. Are there any questions regarding the agenda? No. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
In a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes by a vote.
Okay, I know I did this one. Report out on closed items sessions topics. The board met in closed session to discuss the closed session items. We already did that, so I don't have to redo it. Thank you. And approval of the consent agenda. This is an action item. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
How much?
And second?
Second. All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes by a
And we are on to number 9, superintendent special recognitions. Lynn Adams. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. To the Board of Trustees, good evening. We have a very special person with us this evening. And so, this evening, as always at this time in the agenda, it is a pleasure today to honor a very important community member who has touched each of us in one way or another in a special way. Lynn Adams, our very own Earth hero, is the president of the Pacifica Beach Coalition. Under her leadership, we have become better stewards of our beautiful beach town. Lynn has organized, educated, and encouraged volunteers from many of our organizations, including businesses and children's groups. She finds projects that fit each group's unique skill and makes everyone feel valued and appreciated. Both children and adults benefit from her leadership in organizing beach cleanup, school Earth Day assemblies, and the Earth Day Eco Fest events. Lynn's efforts have been Lynn's efforts have made our community a better place. Even once ugly mediums have been transformed into beautiful places. Lynn's energy and enthusiasm are contagious, and she embodies the Pacifica Beach Coalition's mission to preserve the ocean, coastal habitat, wildlife, and to end litter through advocacy, education, community building, and citizen action. Lynn inspires us all to preserve and protect our natural environment and become Earth heroes as well. Let's give a huge round of applause for our very own Lynn Adams, our preeminent Earth hero. If you would come, I was going to say forward, but. All right, here you go. Pacifica School, oh. Pacifica School District Board of Trustees and Superintendent present this certificate of appreciation awarded to Lynn Adams. Thank you for your service and commitment to our students and staff, awarded this 24th day of January 2024. Thank you so much.
I can't thank you enough for the support. The city of Pacifica is behind us. The schools are behind us. Public Works is behind us. And it takes that kind of commitment to make the ripples become waves. And I am graciously thankful for everybody's participation. I hope that you will jump on the bandwagon for Whale Fest. Bring everybody out. It's a good time right now to get community to be community. We're empowering the youth to be leaders of whale activities at Whale Fest. And so all the schools have been invited to produce whale activities and have kids make these activities happen. We have a whole slew of things happening. So if you don't know about it, feel free to check in with me or let us know. And the biggest thing we can do is let our friends, our family, our school communities know about Whale Fest, so nobody goes to me after the fact, oh, I wish I would have known, I would have come. So I hope you don't miss it. Whale Fest is there, and thank you for all that you guys do. Our kids are our future. We all know that, and your voices are important, and all our voices are really important, and I really appreciated the kids having an opportunity to use their voices. That's what Earth Day is about, and you will see more youth at Whale Fest speaking as well.
Thank you.
Can't tell you how much this means to me, really.
How much you mean to us?
Touched me very deeply. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna slip out and have a wood shop class. My one personal thing. I try not to interrupt.
Okay, next we're on number 10, communications. LSCA.
Feels weird to say good evening with it so bright out, but good evening. Next week will be the 4th annual week where we ask the Pacifica community to join Patty's team. Patty McNally was in her 46th year of teaching in the Pacifica School District when she passed away in November 2020. In March of 2021, LSEA came together to begin the tradition of celebrating ourselves as teammates in honor of Patty during the week in March, which coincides with her birthday, March 17th. LSEA is encouraging all our members to center some of their lessons next week around teamwork. We also invite all of PSD to participate and join Patty's team on Thursday, March 21st, by wearing colors or jerseys of your favorite team, school, or club. LSEA and our members routinely bring up Patty and wonder, what would Patty do? What would Patty say? What on earth would Patty think? We do think Patty would continue to be proud of every single one of our union actions and our teamwork, whether it's our Share the Warmth hat and glove drive to support the community, site-based letter writing to district administration expressing our feelings on different concerns, or individuals coming to board meetings to speak up. Our message has been consistent of wanting to be heard and wanting to work together. At the last board meeting, I think the message of wanting to be heard was delivered by our members and supported by the community. Thank you to Trustee Brocchini, Trustee Doggett, and Trustee Patel for voting down the measure to cut the certificated positions. With your position on that vote, district management had to put in the work and collaborate with certificated and classified staff and parent community members in order to help to determine the priorities of our district and what cuts were manageable. The superintendent convened the budget collaborative group. That group was able to gather and give more thoughtful recommendations than district management had presented to you on February 14th. A little bit of teamwork goes a long way. While the resolution tonight does not fall in line with the recommendation of the committee, it appears to fall in line with your request to prioritize eliminating the deficit. The committee's recommendation prioritized the counselors over the deficit. If you vote in approval of the agenda item tonight, LSEA has not given up hope to reestablish the 2.0 counselor positions. We expect district administration will continue to look at options. We remain eager and hopeful with a desire to work together to look at the budget now for the 2025-2026 school year. It seems the district spends a lot of time putting out fires. Let's get in the business of preventing them. Talking, communicating, brainstorming, and having a dialogue. There is a need to cut even more general ed teachers for 25-26. Trustees, please ensure the district admin continue to convene the Budget Advisory Committee on a regular basis so we are at an agreeable place 12 months from now. Prevent the fires. Please remember, all of us working together as a team to share ideas and problem solve helps us create an ideal learning environment for our students. Show your commitment to being on our team and working for the same goal by wearing the colors or jerseys of your favorite team, school, club, or group on Thursday. Thank you. Next Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. CSEA.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers, and I'm the president of CSEA Chapter 128. Tonight, I would like to welcome Victor Martinez Mendoza, new groundskeeper, effective March 4th, 2024. So far this month, we have had 4 resignations and 3 retirements. The CSEA Chapter 128 Above and Beyond recipients for March 2024 are Linda Sanderson, a child nutrition cook up at Sunset Ridge, and Fabius Rollins, a custodian district-wide. Linda has been a valued PSD employee since 2021. She works very hard to serve the students' meals at Sunset Ridge from the remote kitchen while the school's kitchen and multipurpose room undergo much-needed repairs. This often requires her to work out in the elements through wind, rain, and cold to make sure that the Sunset Ridge students are fed. Fabius, a longtime and highly dedicated PSD classified employee, has worked for the district since 1999. During Fabius's time in the district, he has worked at every school site. He has trained numerous new employees in their duties so they can be successful in their jobs. He consistently goes above and beyond to serve the students, the staff, and the PSD community. Our Chapter 128 is proud of all of our above and beyond recipients. Our classified employees are dedicated, hardworking people who care about our students, our schools, and our community. If the district won't celebrate our wonderful classified employees, CSEA will continue to do so gladly. At the last school board meeting, the board voted 3-2 to eliminate and reduce the hours of 20 classified employees. Linda Brocchini and Trustee Doggett both voted not to reduce those jobs, and we thank you. Since the last board meeting, I have been scrambling to help HR find alternate positions for our members who these reductions affect. The truth is that although these employees may have their hours by working in at least 2 different positions, they are taking a salary reduction. They are taking positions that they might not choose to under different circumstances, and they may need to pay more for their monthly benefits. Classified and certificated employees are being asked to cut and to make their lives even harder than they already are, while management will simply not take a 2% raise right now and is considering an undecided number of unpaid days off. From where I stand, that does not feel fair. As usual, the highest paid people in the district will not feel the same pain as the lowest paid classified employees in the county. I've done a quick comparison of salaries in our community and salaries within our school district. Here are the results. These positions do not hold anyone accountable for the education, safety, or welfare in our community, of our community of children. In-N-Out Burger, $22 an hour. Jamba Juice, $20 to $25 an hour. Starbucks, $22.23 to $25.23 an hour. Taco Bell, $22 to $25 an hour. Domino's Pizza, $20 to $28 an hour. Here are the starting salaries of our Pacifica School District classified employees who we do hold accountable for the safety, the education, and the welfare of our children in our Pacifica School District. School assistants, range 45, starting salary $16.06. Paraprofessionals like Diane Shakur, Gail Barrett, and Rose Templin, range 46, $16.45 an hour. Behaviorists like Cynthia Dimmick, range 52, $19.04. Child nutrition cooks like Julie Gallagher or Linda Sanderson are above and beyond recipient. Range 46, $16.45. School crossing guard. Our last school crossing guard was hit by a vehicle and has never been able to return to work. And her salary at starting was $16.06. Attendance specialist, which we no longer have, range 51, $18.59. Library media technician like Sue Beckmeyer or Lauren Reynolds, range 52, $19.04. School secretary like Barbara Watterson, $20.49. Administrative secretaries like Nicole Ortega or Yolanda Pranza, range 56, $20.99. And custodian ones, which we all need, range 46, $16.45. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're on 10C now, and it's student board representatives, Tyler and Calypso.
Hi everyone. We're gonna start with Tyler's own speech, and then we're gonna move on to mine afterward.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Cabinet, and members of the Pacifica School District community. I'm Tyler Kwan. I'm one of your superintendent student board representatives for the Pacifica School District. First and foremost, I want to thank and acknowledge our superintendent, Dr. Williams, for inviting us both to both budget committee meetings, and also want to thank our board president for taking the time to meet with us. During our recent Student Advisory Council meeting, we discussed a wide range of topics. Calypso will present the rest, but I will present the main one that was talked about during our meeting. The main topic was the ongoing issue of disrespect and bullying behavior within our district. It is clear that this behavior is unacceptable and has no place in our district. In order to effectively address this issue, we must implement stricter consequences for those who engage in these behaviors. Students have observed that there's been countless of incidents of bullying reported, but the consequences of these actions have not been harsh enough to deter further consequences. This lack of consequences creates a never-ending cycle of bullying and disrespect and does not create a safe, respectful work environment for everyone in the district, students and staff. Moving forward, we must ensure the appropriate consequences are put in place for individuals who are engaging in disrespectful or bullying behavior. This may include disciplinary action, counseling, mandatory training on respectful communication and conflict resolution. By taking a firm stance against bullying and enforcing consequences for these actions, we can create a more positive workspace and inclusive schools where all students and staff feel valued and respected and accomplish academic goals. Tonight, the board has a number of critical things to make decisions on, including budget cuts. These decisions will have a significant impact on our district and ultimately affect the thousands of students in our district. And it's key that you guys approach them with careful consideration and a long-term perspective. We urge each of you to engage in open and honest dialogue to share your perspectives and insights about tonight's agenda items. We are confident by the board working as a team, you guys can make strategical decisions that will drive our district even into greater success. Please work as a team to achieve our shared goals. We look forward to a positive, successful meeting.
Good evening, members of the Pacifica community. I'm Clipsa Camille from Valimar School, and I'm the other board representative for the district. During our short time as student board representatives, me and Tyler have already started various projects and discussed issues and ideas with our organized student advisory council. During our first council meeting, we talked about the diverse issue is in our school and found some important connections and collaborated to create solutions. The main topic that popped up during this first meeting was, as Tyler said, bullying. There are several accounts of bullying from student to student and even students bullying staff members. We then developed possible solutions such as counseling and guidance for everyone, as it's more complicated than they're just being a bully and then a victim, and harsher punishments to prevent the occurrences from happening at all. We also had a presenter, Lynn, comes to speak to us about the upcoming event, Whale Fest, and a part of the Pacifica Beach Coalition's annual Earth Day. For those of you who want to join, Lynn already said in her, while she was getting her award, congratulations for that, to set up an activity booth organized by yourself or group and to email Lynn at PBC. It'll take place on Saturday, April 20th for anyone who didn't get that. And she talked to our council about the importance of the environment, beach cleanups, and of course, whales. At our second meeting, we discussed individual initiatives for being on the council, and common themes that came up were creating a healthy school environment, being a voice for kids, and having students be more involved with district or school projects. We also talked about topics and projects each member would like to explore on their own or with others that share these same common interests. Ideas came up such as student-led activities and fundraisers that are led by older kids, and if it involves activities, younger kids will participate in them. This creates a happier school climate and lets students become more involved in activities and gain essential experience. There were also members of community service projects by students with the Pacifica Beach Coalition and other community organizations to create a greener and more beautiful Pacifica. Another large piece of feedback from the members was to organize clubs and activities such as science fairs and student-led organizations. An example would be a rock band separate from the school band, chess club, book club, etc., that staff can help supervise. There has also been a matter that we decided to introduce to the members, where during the period between each meeting, members will collect both negative and positive issues about their respective schools from staff, students, and observations, then quickly present them at each meeting. This is the responsibility of the members to continuously show student representation. That's all for the council recap, but I also wanted to mention the budget cuts if I don't get chosen for the public comment and the possibility of some staff being removed. So please take into consideration the speakers and how much about what they're talking about means to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler and Calypso. Moving on, people wishing to address the board.
This is just the general.
This is
Not
just
the agenda.
things that are not on. the
Not,
agenda.
okay, great. So we have two general, Grace Sobieski. Grace. And then Stephanie Saylor after that. Those are the two general.
Gotta bring the baby. Hi. My name's Grace Sobieski, and I am a parent of a kinder at Ocean Shore School. I'm also this year's PTO president at Ocean Shore. And I also live in Lindemar, but I make that commute over. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I am a kindergarten mom, and I am the Ocean Shore president because that's how passionate I am about our school. We're a small community. We're a close community. Everybody steps in and does what they need to do. And I'm just begging you guys for transparency. I think that there's a lot of up in the air questions right now, especially regarding our middle school and just the general future of Ocean Shore, not just Ocean Shore middle schools, and just how everything is going to combine and look in the future. So we need to plan. Parents need to know what's going on. We need to be transparent about, what we're stepping into with lotteries. So yeah, I just ask that we plan ahead, that we share what our thoughts are, and give parents time to let that sink in, to let parents come in and give their thoughts, give their approvals, give their input, because we deserve that. We have a strong, rich background. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. So we need to be able to give our input. We need to be able to plan ahead. So thank you.
The next one is Stephanie Saylor.
I think I've got a slightly more rambly version of what Grace just said, so sorry. Hi, my name is Stephanie Saylor, and I've been an Ocean Shore parent and volunteer for almost 10 years. I also come and chose from the other side of town. I have a freshman at Oceana and a sixth grader at Ocean Shore. More sixth grade parents would be here tonight, but they're at a meeting for an upcoming overnight field trip. These special field trips are a highlight of our smaller middle school program. In fact, all of the special programming that makes our school stand out is, for the most part, not supported by district staff, but by many years of dedication from parent volunteers. And a byproduct of all that parent-student-teacher interaction is a uniquely bonded community. In fact, I've spent years on the playground after school with many other parents because that's where our kids wanted to be, after school. I'm here to let you know that Ocean Shore parents are paying attention. We care and we're worried about our sweet school, its students' mental health, and our middle school program. Ocean Shore has faced some big challenges over the past few years, from floods to losing linchpin staff and, of course, COVID. No matter what the issue or level of district support, we have always come together to make it work because, Otto, we're Ocean Shore. It's what we do. However, parents are not as available as they once were. Teachers are more burdened than ever, and now it feels like the district is turning our kids' education into a numbers game, and Ocean Shore parents are feeling disheartened. We need your support. Our kids need counselors and para to support math and reading, and parents need help championing our middle school program. Embedded counselors who our students feel are part of our school community have made this rocky transition back to school better for so many kids, including my own, who would have missed a lot of school doing anxiety, often presenting as an upset stomach, if she didn't have a counselor regularly available. Pre-COVID mental health needs, when we were just eking by, we can't even go back to those. The psychological landscape has changed, and counselors should be a part of regular staff. I know that a lot of kids have been hitting that IBL like button and following their friends there, and it might be making it look like parents don't want a K-8. I want a K-8. Plenty of parents want a K-8. However, we're feeling left to fend for ourselves to support our middle school. IBL taking so many kids, rumors swirling about middle school programs being shut down, and even entire school site in the near future are causing families to worry that their child will not be able to graduate from the school they painstakingly chose and have spent so much of their time supporting. Our family chose a K-8, particularly this K-8, in large part due to Ocean Shore's commitment to social emotional learning and mental health. Ocean Shore tends to turn out caring kids who are natural community leaders because they spend a lot of time regularly interacting with parents and younger kids. When choosing a school, this kind of paradigm was particularly important to my family when thinking ahead for when my kids were middle school age. Ocean Shore K-8 seemed like a smaller, safer environment for kids when the emotional part of their brains were growing rapidly and disproportionately than a larger school filled solely with kids going through the same thing. Please support our Ocean Shore K-8. Thank you.
Based on that, Jen.
Okay, yeah, we'll just wait. Just as a reminder, if you have a speaker card, we're waiting until the number comes up to what you wrote down. Subject. Correspondence, did anybody receive correspondence? No. I did receive correspondence, and it was from Jean Corpez. I hope I said her name right. And she is at the county, and she gave us the report on our first interim, which was positive. And so I just wanted to put that out there. And did you get any correspondence?
I actually have one I wanted to mention. And they may have already reached out to the superintendent, but I got approached by Elise Lester, who is a representative from Mark Berman's office, and a lot of the folks that were here last time and maybe here also wrote to Mark Berman's office. So thank you, because we need more than just our office hearing about this. So she had heard from a lot of constituents about our money troubles here in Pacifica at our school district. So anyway, that's it. I just want to say the word is getting out farther than us. So thank you.
Well, I actually have one correspondence to mention. I received correspondence from Kevin Woodhouse, our city manager, around beach safety, beach and recreation safety. And there's a number of opportunities that our community can consider, and also potentially considering for school campuses to have potentially volunteers come in and provide beach safety, I guess, lessons or a just set of tips. So I'll forward that.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have board superintendent communications. I'm gonna start down at that end.
Sure. So we had a negotiation budget meeting this weekend, about 4 or 5 hours. I've been emailing with various constituents and, just thinking about this. So, anyway, that's it.
I also participated in board work study.
Okay, I had two different special ed committee meetings and parent meetings. Two of the budget committee meetings, and then also the Saturday board meeting, that was the special one. The music department monthly meeting. And I also participated in the SOGI training that was paid by the PTOs that was held by BL.
I have the Saturday board.
Since the last meeting, on the 16th of February, I met with Dr. Williams, Tyler, and Calypso. The same day I met with the superintendent and officer Will Smith, the Pacifica Police Department. On the 27th, I had another meeting with the superintendent. The 28th, I had the superintendent's budget collaborative meeting, part 1. And on March 4th was the same meeting, part 2. On March 6th, I had a check-in with the superintendent. On the 7th, I met with the superintendent. On March 9th, I had the budget study session. And then on the 12th, I met with the superintendent.
Good evening. I've had several engagements with our community. Student advisory, the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee had an opportunity to work alongside both Calypso and Tyler in terms of working with our committee and identifying areas of concern and also those things that we think are going really well from the student's perspective and how we would really like to see bullying be addressed across our district. That was a revolving theme across all schools from all student representatives. And so you will hear more in terms of our student recommendations in terms of how to address our concern around bullying. Also, the opportunity to convene and establish the superintendent's budget collaborative, which went very well. We had an opportunity to lay the foundation of the district's fiscal standing as it is to this date. And the purpose was to collaborate on potential budget solutions to address our fiscal challenges due to inflation, limited and expiring one-time funds, and declining enrollment. From the meeting, we were able to present a set of recommendations for our board to consider, which was presented in our study session on this past Saturday. And that priority was to hopefully encourage the district, our district, to cut smaller first and then a larger in the following or subsequent years, and to be very considerate about how we're making recommendations that we keep the cuts away from our kids, also stop spending in terms of eliminate the deficit, and then also preserve the integrity of our instructional programs. In addition, I've met with each of the board members at our standing committees. I have engaged with our labor partners and our standing committees as well. And I have also spent time with our special education, the Superintendent Special Education Advisory Committee, and looking at our structures and also prioritizing our needs in terms of special ed and how we can better serve not only our students and families, but how can we better serve our staff and ourselves in terms of the processes that we use and how we collect data, how we also our referral process, and just really looking at how to refine yet to also make sure that we are adhering to the law and our responsibility in educating all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to number 11, information items, and A, Parcel Tax Oversight Committee Annual Report. And the speaker is the committee chair, Christopher Swidler. Swidler, sorry.
Can you hear me all right? I don't think I can turn on video.
Yes.
Everybody can hear me? Hi, I'm Christopher Swedler. I'm the chairperson for the board for reviewing the parcel tax bond measure that was passed quite a while ago. My role here is as the Ocean Shore representative. So I also want to say that I'm a strong supporter of Ocean Shore and its teachers in particular. Specifically about the parcel tax oversight, our board met on January 31st. Everybody was present. We reviewed the spending for the 2022-2023 fiscal year and the proposed spending for 2023. Sorry, I think I have this written wrong. We reviewed the 2022-23 and the next year's fiscal spending as well. We had to go through all of the different expenditures and make sure that they all that were underneath the parcel tax spending and make sure they all lined up with the language of the ballot measure. And we unanimously concluded that all the expenditures did.
Does anybody have any questions about the parcel tax? Nope. Thank you. All right, and now we're moving on to the bond. B.
He got cut off.
Oh, he got cut off? Oh,
We'll come back.
Thank you, Christopher.
We'll come back.
I don't believe I
welcome
was
back to Chris. Is he there?
cut off. No, I wasn't saying anything else, I don't think.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Christopher. And now we're moving on to B, Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report. And the speaker is committee member Mary Trainer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mary Trainer. I am a parent of a first grader at Ortega and a sixth grader at IBL. And the Measure O Bond Citizens Oversight Committee met on January 31st and, like the Parcel Tax Committee, reviewed expenditures undertaken over the past year and ongoing, and determined that all of them were in fact in line with the Measure O bond language. We unanimously determined that, and yeah, that's it. Also quick, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you, Mary. Moving on to number 12, action items. A, certification of second interim report for 2023-24 action.
We have two
Where
speakers.
is that? I don't have anything there.
We do have two speakers.
Two speakers.
12A. You want to, go ahead, what we call Tara Knotts for 12A. And then Lorinda Brennan for 12A.
All right, sorry, ready? Appreciate the board's communications on email. I probably know just enough to be annoying, but I do appreciate your feedback and replies to me. I was reading over the CSBA website and when it was addressing the state deficit, and I realized it was kind of outward from the schools to the state. But it said something like this: the state is potentially in a year-over-year budget deficit. While tightening of belts is required, it can't come at the expense of public schools that are facing enormous challenges in learning recovery, student health and well-being, staffing shortages, school safety, facilities decaying, and the expiration of our one-time funds. You all know this. But if we use our schools to balance our budget, we jeopardize all the progress we have made, the mental health and the learning interventions that we've just made. We jeopardize undoing those if we cut too tight. And so when I was in the when I listened on Saturday, I was really struck by hearing so much about making sure we don't have a deficit spend and that we keep a 6% reserve. And having followed this for lots of years in my spare time, it just feels different. It doesn't feel like the communication I've known over the years. And I do get it. I do get being a little conservative, especially when you have floods and lawsuits and all that fun stuff, to be more conservative. And there's good reasons, but I want to make sure we're doing this with like making sure we're putting kids and teachers that are used to their schools, as a priority in this little school district where even 50 kids different makes a big difference to one school site. It changes everything. So I just hope that we're really thinking about this and that we have a big bird's eye view of watching everything, watching the numbers of kids coming in, watching our lottery, watching how many kids can go to each site, so that we don't have to make really rough cuts that affect children and their friendships and the staff and their friendships. That's all.
Lorinda Brennan.
I'm back. Still wearing my at the top shirt. My husband dedicated 12 hours in your guys's budget committee in the effort to preserve counselors for our community schools. They collaborated on a comprehensive plan that reflected the needs and concerns of the community. However, it was deeply disheartening to learn that on Saturday's special meeting, that it was recommended that the committee not fully adopt and was cutting 2 of the counselors. Keeping all the counselors was the top priority of the committee. And could be accomplished if we reduced our buffer in our budget. The state requires 3%, we're holding 6%. We could cut some of that and keep our counselors. This not only undermines the effort and the time invested by our community members, but it also demonstrates a lack of respect for the community you serve. Your actions are disgraceful. Your bait and switch tactics has not gone unnoticed. If given the opportunity to vote, I would express a vote of no confidence. Additionally, I believe it's imperative that we have a grant writer on staff. And while I understand fiscal responsibilities, I still advocate to adjust the top 10 salaries so that we can have these positions. It's unjustifiable to continually burden our schools with budget cuts when the critical supports are already strained. I also have concerns regarding your agenda format. During our board meetings, the language that is employed is overly technical, laden with jargon, and inaccessible for some parents. I have to have somebody help me figure out what item. I'm talking on item A, certification of second term report. Like, just say we're talking about cutting counselors. Like, there needs to be a layman's outline of the terms so that people can be engaged in these conversations. We need to work together to create a more inclusive and responsive education environment for our children instead of working against each other. Thank you.
Is that it for that member?
Bombay.
And Josie, are you ready to do the presentation for the second interim report?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Villalobos, Dr. Mayors, trustees. Stan's going to bring the report up on the screen. So this is a combination over the last month or so of our budget updates, report out on the committee work, and then we go into our second interim report. So if you go ahead and move forward, Stan. So this is, go ahead and move forward. This is the district's goals. This is the budget cycle. It just shows from the beginning of the year through where we are now. It's called the second interim report because it's the second time that we bring a budget update to the report during the school year. Go ahead, go forward. So the objective of the second interim report is we report all of the spending through January 31st, and then we project the activity through June 30th. So it's the actual activity of what the district has spent through January 31st. It does include a detailed budget and multi-year projections. And go ahead and move forward. And just talking about certifications, to review this for everyone who wasn't in the committee meetings, the districts are governed by the state of California and they have to present their budget. And there's 3 ways you can present your budget. Positive means that you will meet your financial obligations in the current fiscal year and the 2 following years. Qualified means you may not meet your fiscal obligations in the current year or the 2 subsequent years. And then negative means that you are unable to meet your financial obligations. There is a link, which we won't go through tonight because we have been through it in the prior sessions, but it was the county report on what the AB 1200 oversight is. And we did have Kevin Bultimo, the deputy superintendent from the county, come to our meeting and explain that to us. Go ahead, Stan, please move forward. So just kind of a snapshot. We've talked a little bit about where the state budget is. And so the state gives us a projection. And back when Pacifica School District adopted our budget, the state projected the COLAs in the first column, 8.22% for this year, 3.94% for next year, and 3.29%. As the governor gets more information, he changes his update. And so January was the last time that he changed his update. Unfortunately, because of the delay in tax returns, the state receipts were much lower than the governor had anticipated. So he reduced our projected COLA from 3.94% to 0.76%. So that was a loss of 3.18% in the next year, and then the following year, 0.56%. Go ahead, Stan, please. So just kind of a recap, what is LCFF funding? It's a local controlled funding formula that the state created back 2018, I believe. So the state funding is based on average daily attendance. How many kids are showing up to school every day? And then you get a certain dollar amount per student. You get additional funds based on different student designations. For example, English learners, there's additional funding, homeless and foster youth. Now, the difference for Pacifica and San Mateo County is there's community funded school districts. So a community funded school district receives more in property taxes than what that LCFF funding formula would calculate. So if you go ahead and go forward, we do have a pictorial of the local control funding formula versus community funded. And you can see in the first category, the first category is a district that gets state aid. The local property taxes make up a very small portion of what that calculation of ADA, student ADA per the state's funding formula. Then you can look at other school districts, and in San Mateo County, there's 5 school districts like Pacifica that are LCFF funded. The rest of the school districts receive so much property taxes that they get more funding than the allocation of what the LCFF formula calculates. And they get to keep all of those excess property taxes. And go ahead and go forward. This is a big picture snapshot of our revenues. And you can see the big blue portion of the pie chart is 82.6%. That's how much state funding we receive, and that's how much our budget is comprised of. We get very little federal funding, very little other state funding, which would be state lottery, and local funding. That would be our parcel tax and Pacifica Education Foundation and small grants. And go ahead and move forward. Here is a pie chart of our expenditures, and you can see that our employee costs are 72% of our budget. Normally, in prior years, our employee costs would be about 85%. And so what's happened during COVID is we've contracted out for a lot of services, and you can see that's 25%. So 46% of our budget is certificated compensation, 17% is classified, and then 9% is administration. Go ahead, Stan. So we've talked a lot over the last month or so about budget priorities, and the budget priorities are eliminating the deficit, employee compensation, and enhancing programs. We want to be able to plan for employee compensation. We have been in a very difficult time over the last few years, deficit spending. We have not been able to put employee compensation in our budget, and I'll demonstrate that for you in the multi-year. And go ahead and go forward. So what I want to do is just very quickly go over the differences between first interim and second interim. Our first interim report was in October. It was the actuals as of October. And now we're looking at the actuals as of January. We did have some declines in revenues, and that was mainly in the special education estimated revenues from the county. And then some state revenues, there was an adjustment of the learning recovery grant. And so you can see the total revenues had a small decline. And go ahead and go forward. And then when you look at expenditures, the main difference here is we added 2% compensation salary increases effective January for our classified and our certificated staff. We accounted for the employee benefits for that. And we did have some increases in other expenditures. We have a couple more students in non-public school. We've had some legal fee increases. We now have the election cost because we hadn't known about that at first interim, and then utilities have gone up a little bit. So we've increased the budget by about $500,000. Go ahead and go forward. So I tried to kind of capture the what we've worked on for the last month. The superintendent's budget collaborative recommendation is in these pictures here. And then when you move to the next slide, we took those two pictures and kind of put it on a spreadsheet, which is, I know, really hard to see right now. But the presentation is online if you want to be able to view it and enlarge it. And then if you go ahead and go forward, there is options here, option 1 and option 2. So option 1 does not eliminate the deficit. And you can see this one's a little bit easier to read. We have the reductions in 24-25, reductions in 25-26. And you can see the red are the subtractions, and then the green is adding. So when we're looking at adding, we don't have all the slides from the collaborative meeting, but we had shown what the district looked like before COVID, and then during COVID and after COVID. And I think the big picture there was we received $3 million in COVID funding right when COVID hit. Before COVID, we were looking at possibly filing a qualified budget report, and then COVID hit and we received $3 million in additional funding. We hired COVID health assistants. We hired additional counselors because our district has always had counselors for the K-8s. We added more counseling for the K-8s, and then we added counseling for the K-5s. We also added Playworks. That's the Playworks people on the playground who do the games and everything. And so those were COVID one-time funds. So I kind of wanted to bring us back to kind of remember that. And so then now looking at when we're looking at the reductions, when you want to keep the counseling staff, we're adding it to the unrestricted side of the budget. And that's why that's in that first column as an addition. And then adding school assistants for yard supervision. So in this option, there's a total change of a $1.4 million net reduction. The deficit is at 1.5 million, and we have a 7% reserve. And then in the 25-26 school year, it's a $1.3 million reduction. It's a typo there, it should be an M, and a $275,000 deficit with a 6.4 reserve. So if you go to the next slide, you can actually see a picture of our multi-year budget. You can see the first year is our current year. It shows the total revenues, expenditures with an operating deficit of $434,000. The second year is a $1.5 million operating deficit. Third year, $275,000 operating deficit. And then the reserves goes from 10.3% to 6.5%. So that's option 1, which does not eliminate the deficit. And then if you go ahead to option 2, same format. The difference here is if you were to eliminate the deficit, it has a cross out the counseling staff of $350,000. And then you can see the difference here in the 25-26 school year is a balanced budget with an 8.3% reserve. And then if you move forward, you can see the actual multi-year and the numbers. And you can see in the third year, we have a positive, a break-even, slightly surplus budget of $79,000 with an 8.4% reserve. So those were the options looked at. That was prior to Saturday's board study session. And then if you go ahead and go forward. So after the study session on Saturday, this is the recommendation to eliminate the deficit. It does have a slightly lower reduction in year 1 and a higher reduction in year 2. Now, when you make the reductions in year 1, you get more savings in your budget because it counts for the first year and then again for the second year. So in this option, it's taking a lower cut in the first year and then making those cuts in the second year to eliminate the deficit. So the difference here with this option is there's a little bit more in staffing efficiencies, which is staffing to enrollment. And instead of eliminating the counselors, this option keeps 2 counselors in addition to the counselors that are already funded by the parcel tax. So the parcel tax funds 2.5 FTE in counseling, which covers the Ingrid B. Lacey Middle School with 1 full-time counselor, and then Cabrillo, Valleymar, and Ocean Shore have 0.5. That's funded by the parcel tax. And in this scenario, it's keeping 2 counselors in the general fund, which those 2 counselors would then be divided up. And then again, adding school assistants. And the difference here is the school site, Sunset Ridge, would fund the world language program. And in this scenario, you have a $1.5 million reduction in the first year, 1.4 in the second year, and then you can see, again, a balanced budget at the end. So if you go to the next slide, Stan, here's the multi-year, and you can see that we have a surplus with an ending fund, ending reserve of 7.7% in this recommendation. Go ahead and move forward. So just looking at the economic outlook, we have talked a lot about this. The legislative analyst is the office that reviews the governor's assumptions. And they feel that due to the state tax collections and receipts were $43 billion lower than the 2023 Budget Act estimates. The state has a $37.9 billion deficit. It's a possibility the state could draw down on some reserves. They could have spending reductions or fund shifts. What's highlighted in red here is deferrals. So what's happened in the past when the state has a big budget deficit is the state doesn't pay school districts. So right now we get our state funding on a monthly basis. If the state has a deficit, sometimes in the past, the governor has said, we're not going to pay you for these months, and they'll just pick certain months in the year. So that puts school districts like us in a cash flow position, because then we have to go borrow money to be able to make our payroll and maintain a positive cash balance. So that's one of the things they've talked about that could happen. They've talked about lower COLAs in 24, 25. I don't know how you can get much lower than 0.76, but there has been talk about lowering that COLA and lowering the COLA in 25, 26. So now what we're waiting for is Governor Newsom to come out with his May revision. That usually comes out around May 15th or so. And then they analyze that budget, and then we will then make a budget revision. We'll bring the board the proposed budget for 24, 25. So go ahead and go forward. This is a snapshot of other district funds. The district does have other funds in the general fund, and I just kind of want to go through that so people understand where the money is spent. The Child Nutrition Fund is the food service fund, and that has a 1.1 million, it's actually million, there's a typo there, $1.1 million balance. And the reason that is because now we're feeding all of the kids breakfast and lunch, and we're getting funding from both the federal and state government. In prior years, there was a deficit in that fund, and the general fund used to contribute to that fund. Deferred maintenance has a very small balance because the state doesn't fund deferred maintenance. Before LCFF, the state used to give all school districts funds for deferred maintenance. So deferred maintenance is your roofs, your asphalt, things that kind of break down in school districts and old buildings. It's used for plumbing, heating, electrical, roofing, and flooring. So currently the board is putting about $200,000 a year into this fund to pay for those types of things. And then Fund 17 is a special reserve fund. It's part of the district's reserve. It was counted in the multi-year scenarios that I showed you. Retiree benefits. So our district does pay for retiree benefits for employees, single dental and single medical for up to 10 years after an employee retires. And so that fund has a balance of $946,000. 1 year of retiree benefits for people within those 10 years is usually around $600,000 a year. And then we have our post-retirees for people who are past their 10 years. We continue to pay a small amount for those employees. which is about 300,000 a year. So this fund keeps a balance of about 1 year of cash flow to pay for those retirees. And then the building fund is our bond fund, and those are the projects that you see going around the Ortega Field, the fencing at Valleymar, the expansion at Valleymar, all of those projects. And then capital facilities is, what that is developer fees in Pacifica. When there's construction in Pacifica, people file a permit with the city of Pacifica, and a small amount of that fee comes to the school district. And we can use those fees coupled with bond funds. And the last time we used those fees was for the Valleymar expansion. And then Fund 40 is the sale of site funds from Fairmont. And we also deposit facility use fees there. So currently we're using those funds for the workforce housing project. Okay, and go forward. So again, budget certifications, just kind of a review. You can go ahead and move forward. So we are recommending that we file a positive certification tonight, and then we would submit this budget to the County Office of Education. The one thing to point out to the board is when you sign off on the district certification, there are those criteria and standards to review, and there's some areas. Those are the fiscal indicators that we reviewed in the budget study sessions. Let me just point out a few of those. So the good thing is one of them is status of labor agreements, and those are now settled. So that is no longer a fiscal indicator. Negative cash flow, that's not an indicator. Declining enrollment is a fiscal indicator. Uncapped health benefits. And those are the big ones that I can see right now. So you can go ahead and move forward. So this is kind of factors that we should consider in the multi-year as we move forward. How is the federal and state funding going to change? Student needs, what's the impact of our declining enrollment? We do have to, as Dr. Williams mentioned, think about inflation. We have health costs. They went up 11% this year. We do have to fund retirement costs for our employees. Right now, we're paying we're paying about 25% for classified employees and 15% for certificated. In a couple years, the CalPERS rate is going to continue to increase by 228. It'll be 30% of an employee's salary. And then, as one of the speakers mentioned, we've had some insurance claims for floods and things like that. And then we also have to have unanticipated costs, and those are insurance claims as well. We do have 2 pending lawsuits with the district is currently reviewing. Go ahead and move forward. So next steps, deficit reduction, maintain a balanced budget, compensation for employees for 24-25. We are just in the 23-24 school year. We want to start planning for 24-25 so that we can start building employee compensation into our budget. Possibly the very low COLA, that's going to be difficult. The board has desired a 6% reserve versus the 3%, which is insufficient if there is some kind of unanticipated occurrence, unanticipated costs. And then we have to look at budget planning for 24-25. We need to look at increases in revenues, budget savings, and reductions. And that's it. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question. Can you, with the deferrals from the state, would we be using that 6% reserve? Is that part of why we have it? Like, can you explain why? Because the way I've been understanding is 3% is not enough for this district based on the size of our budget for any unanticipated costs. And that's why we want to maintain it. But can you explain like what could happen if state defers payment and what we would need just in case, so that everyone understands, like, we're not picking this number out of thin air. And even though it's recommended that you have 3, 6 is what we need instead of 3.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the cash deferrals would be if the state doesn't pay us for some months, and usually it's not just 1 month. Usually they pick 3 months at a time. So when you're looking at a district with a payroll of over $15 million, as we have, plus our other operating costs, it's about $1.5 to $2 million a month of operating costs. So if the state doesn't pay us what they owe us in those months, we would have a negative cash balance. And you're having a negative cash during the year, the county is a bit forgiving. They float us, but if you have a negative cash on June 30th, then you fall into the negative status, not just a qualified status, but a negative status because you're unable to meet your financial obligations. Does that answer your question? Yes.
Do you know the average reserve that districts have in California?
Oh, that's a good one. And I have that slide on one of the other reports. What was it? It had it had elementary and high schools. And I can pull that back up again. It was school services, and the elementaries were much higher than the recommended amounts. I want to say it was like 15 to 18%. It varies over the years, but it was a statewide average that school services puts out. And they're usually 1 or 2 years behind.
Yeah, the last one from the LAO is 17% at the elementary level. And so I just wanted to highlight that I don't think we've ever been anywhere close to that level of reserve. And we don't have the means to get there. But that is the average reserve that elementary school districts in California have.
I just had a question about the 3%. If we were at, let's say, 4% or 3%, would that be enough to give compensation, or would that more than likely put us into the qualified?
So if you're at 4%, and we kind of ran through those numbers with everybody, if you're at 4%, then and you give a salary increase, the salary increase is going to be about $250,000 if you give 1% salary increase. So it's going to be almost 1%. You're going to be very close to just having 3%.
Does anybody else have any questions?
So just to clarify that, if it is about 1-to-1, if you have a reserve of 3%, you can't give a raise more than 3%. And then at 3%, you've cleared out the reserve. And so I think it's important because I think when people see 7% reserve, but the state only mandates 3%, it looks like we're being maybe very conservative. But part of the reason is to plan for increases in compensation, which has been this district's long-term goal to make sure our teachers and staff can actually get paid at the county averages, because we all know that they're not. And being able to keep doing those step increases every year requires that investment in doing that. So I just wanted to highlight that, because 7%, given where we've been, feels like, wow, have so much reserve, but that's the goal. We want to get multiple percentages in the long term to our teachers and staff, and keeping a reserve at 3% just doesn't allow for that.
Can you just give us a little future perspective? If we eliminate the deficit in the next 2 years, what that means in terms of employee compensation and raises going forward? Like we'll be able to do that on a regular basis instead of like fighting for it every year.
Yeah, I think it would really ease the burden on the district and the labor groups, because we're already past the middle of this school year. So we started the school year on July 1st and nobody got a salary increase. We've been doing that year after year after year. So if you're in a position where you can actually plan ahead, we could be talking now about next year's compensation. People could start their school year when they come back from the summer and actually see an increase in their paychecks as they see an increase in the gas prices and everything else, everything else people are paying more for. None of our employees have received a salary increase even now, because we haven't yet instituted what the agreed upon, they're going to get it, but it's going to be retro. So they've started the school year and not had an increase.
And I just want to make a note too, that we live in a very beautiful place. And since I've lived here, I've seen minimal building, and I'm going on 20 years now, and I've seen minimal building. And it's because people, like Lynn, want to keep Pacifica beautiful. But when we're not collecting any property taxes, we're always going to be in that LCFF area. And so that's what makes it difficult too. I see on Fassler, I don't know how many that's gonna be, maybe like 20, I don't know. The ones on the other side of Fassler. And there's always a quarry too. Somebody actually owns that privately, so they can do whatever they want with it. But they've listened to Pacifica, for 20 years. And so I just want you to know the history of why we're always staying stagnant. And when we first moved here, I believe we were close to 38,000 population in Pacifica. And I believe we're still at about the same as that. And so it's a blessing, but it's also not a blessing for the schools.
And then I have one other question regarding the budget collaborative. Is there a way, I mean, I was very impressed on the Saturday when we reviewed all of the, you had 2 sheets up there in the presentation, but there were a bunch of sheets that the team had worked through that we had the opportunity to review. Is there a way to publish those so that the broader community can see the insights from, because I was very impressed actually at the creativity and the thoughtfulness that the community put into that. And so I think it would be great to, while that's not the budget, it's great for the community to see what the community.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We have all that. It was 2 full days of work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and we can, I mean, in response to your question, yes.
That would be great.
Make sure there's public stuff. Yeah. And then, if I may, just also just a reminder too, that our deferred maintenance, it comes out of our general fund. We don't have a separate fund for our repairs and those unanticipated facility needs. And we were hit pretty hard this year, and we're already halfway through. But we've had some major repairs that we needed. And yes, some may be covered by insurance, but some may not be. And so that too is why there is a need for a higher reserve than 3% as well. So I don't know, Josie, if you want to highlight something.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point, Dr. Williams. The state's not giving us any money to fix. We've had some major plumbing issues. Cabrillo Elementary School last year had some major plumbing issues. This area here, the district office has major plumbing issues. There's, of course, asphalting, electrical repairs, all of those things, roofing. We have had roof leaks in several sites. And all of those things are coming out of the general fund because the state is not providing deferred maintenance as it used to.
And the reference point I would use that you mentioned is 1% is about $300,000. And so if you have an expense of $300,000, that's 1% of our budget that goes there. And so it's a good shortcut that I use in my head.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Does anybody have any more questions? Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
And now, so we're on number 12.
It's an action item.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the positive certification of the second interim report for the 2023-24 school year and authorize its filling with the county superintendent of schools? So motion to approve.
I'll second.
On favor. Motion passes by its vote.
And do we have any speakers on this one?
For B, yes, we have Meridel Remitt and well, I guess these are 2 speakers. So
do we want John to go first?
Speakers.
Okay.
And we're going to do it together, actually. All right, dear Board of Trustees, Dr. Williams, and Pacifica community. Cecilia and I have been teaching at LMEC for 18 years when Pacifica first started to bring their students with special needs back to the school district. The small enclosed campus has served a safe space for the preschool students. We serve cross-categorical children with a range of disabilities. Some students have complex needs, including mobility, vision, and health issues. Our students come to us with barely any to no school experience. The district presents the move to Sunset Ridge and Ortega as beneficial to establish a least restrictive environment for mainstreaming purposes. At LMEC, our students have inclusive opportunities with typical peers throughout the school year with the on-site preschool We Play, We Learn. However, at Sunset Ridge, the on-site preschool has closed down due to low enrollment. Therefore, there are currently no mainstreaming opportunities. Additionally, there are no agreement in place with the on-site preschools at Ortega for mainstreaming. How is this move providing mainstreaming opportunities for our students?
Our biggest concern is the safety of the students. Navigating the large open campuses and schoolyards through large crowds during transitions and recess will be a challenge. We have many students who have difficulties transitioning even within short distances. It would be difficult to maintain close supervision since we need to share recess time with other classes. At LMEC, we have playgrounds that are fenced so that students are able to freely and safely access equipment. Currently, there are 2 TK and 2K classes at Sunset Ridge. Every class needs to find time to share recess time together. By putting our students in the midst of 48 other students, how is that setting them up for successful inclusive opportunities? The district needs to focus more on the support needs of our students rather than just a number on a class list. How is the district understanding the students' needs and what supports they need to help them thrive? Thank you.
And that was it for the speakers.
John, and we are on 12B relocation of programs housed at Lindemar Education Center.
Thank you, and good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Williams. I first want to give a little bit of background to this proposed relocation. Historically, the preschool programs, SDC classes and assessment team have been housed at LMEC since the mid-2000s. We also have our homeschool independent study teachers there, two classrooms currently. Our behavior team, so our manager of behavior services and our lead behaviorist are there. Pacifica volunteers are there. So those first four bullet points are the programs that are currently housed there. Relocating the classes and programs potentially can free up nine rooms that are currently in use with these programs. These classrooms can be used, of course, to generate rental income for the district. And I know that we already have some interest out there in the community from what Josie has told me. So talking about the SDC classes in particular, the district has planned to relocate SDC classes for several years. This was in the works when I got here 3 years ago, and I know that this has been in the plans. One of the 3 preschool SDC classes we have now is at Sunset Ridge. The other 2 are located at LMEC. So we have 3. I did put in the legalese for from IDEA for least restrictive environment. I know I've presented this to you in other presentations, but we must ensure that students with disabilities are educated with children who are non-disabled, and that special classes and separate programs should only be in place when the student absolutely needs it. So they should be in a least restrictive environment with typical peers as much as possible. Placing the 2 remaining classes at a comprehensive school campus increases access to typical peers and establishes least restrictive environment for the students. Here's a grid with the actual destinations for the classes and the programs. One SDC class would be going to Sunset Ridge. The other would be going to Ortega. We do have the rooms identified at those 2 school sites, and that's why we chose them, is because we had the spaces and the configurations. The preschool assessment team would go to Sunset Ridge. Our homeschool teacher would go to Ortega. And the manager of behavior and related services would be at a school site to be determined. We do have our coordinator of special education, Betsy Belkin, there at LMEC. She would likely come to the district office. And then we have Pacifica volunteers, which would go to Sunset Ridge. So those are the destinations that we've drafted so far. So next steps, should this be approved for the students that would be moving schools, we want to determine the placement for the students, and that's kind of a complex process where we want to get input from the teachers, obviously the parents. We want to look at the different destinations for the classes. So, but then we want to communicate out with the parent community, of course. And we've had a lot of questions from the LMEC parent community, rightly so. Absolutely understand that, and we've been wanting to tell them information, but it was premature, for the most part. We do want LMEC staff to come and look at the new locations. We have not done that yet. Last week, I met with LMEC staff and was able to share these destinations. They had some excellent input, thoughts, concerns, ideas. Part of this we would address when we were on site there at the new locations. There's a lot of logistical details, obviously, with relocation and movement. That goes without saying, the boxes, the time for packing, et cetera, and the actual movement. Working with the principals in terms of the coverage, the recess coverage, the schedule, the safety, and the integration into the school communities of the new classrooms. And then when we're looking at the students moving, the implications in students' IEPs, there could be implications for their transitions to new programs. So we would be addressing that via the students' IEP teams. And that's all I have. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have two. There's already a SDC class at Sunset Ridge, correct?
Yes, there's three.
So my question is has there been any issues with those students in being at Sunset Ridge? Because the statement that just came up, the comment that just came up before you is that those students would not adjust well. So I'm just curious to see how that class is doing since it's already there.
I think I would want to talk more about what those concerns are, to understand that, because the classes have been going fine. I mean, it's all of our specialized programs, we're going to have things that come up within them. So,
and I know that the playground there has a fence around it for the little kids. So
that one does, yes.
Yeah. So, and then my second question is, when is this anticipated move? Is this for next year? Not for
this would be for next school year. Okay. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
My question is, when we were talking about moving, is when I visited LMEC, like when I was, assigned to that school, there were special tools that the kids had to use. Like one of them, it looks like a hanging trampoline. Where are those tools going to go?
Yeah, the specialized equipment that might exist. That's going to be answered when we're at the site. I know that for Sunset Ridge, for example, Principal Cundiff knows we have things coming with students. So I think we need to see the available spaces for that. Hopefully it's not too far from the classroom. But I think those are some of those details that when we're on the site, if this were to be approved, we can kind of go through.
I have a request, if possible. Is it possible to report back on an interim basis? I don't know what the right timeline is to actually measure goals against IEPs, but the students that are in the SDC classes, you know, if they were moved to Sunset Ridge and Ortega, to understand what their progress looks like during that move. And I'd also like to understand if we're not seeing progress as expected, what options do we have?
Well, and that's the beauty of an IEP team is the IEP team can do a lot of things. It really, you know, obviously like everything, it depends on, you know, what's going on, what are the barriers for the student, what is coming up. Sometimes it's pretty obvious, sometimes it's not. You know, I would think that IEP teams look at everything. They look at the placement, they look at the program. If another program in the district is better suited, they would want to move the student. What we would be setting up at Sunset Ridge, which is nice, is a continuum from preschool through. So students wouldn't need to necessarily move. Also, Ortega would have a continuum because they have the 2 SDC classes.
So yeah, the request I think would just be to have a way to check in to see, because an adjustment period I think generally makes sense, but
yeah,
you know, we want to make sure those students are making progress on their IEPs, and there's do something that makes it go in a different direction, because then I think we should reevaluate and reconsider.
And there's periodic checkpoints obviously built into the IEP process, but maybe we could look at that and add to it, because sometimes those might be too far apart. So we could come back with some ideas.
I just have one, this is more like a comment. I see most people are going to be on site, except for the coordinator of special education. My feeling is that she might be better, and the students might be better served if she's at the site that has the most special day classes instead of the district office. Is there another reasoning why she would be here at the district office?
To be honest with you, no. We were really concentrating on the classes and the programs. I put district office because I hadn't identified a school yet. I bet if I put it out to principals, they would probably jump at that, at having the coordinator on site. So that is a great idea.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? No? Okay, so this is an action item. Do I have a motion to approve the relocation of the district programs housed at Lindenmar Education Center to the new designated district locations? A motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, and now we're moving on. We're on 12C.
We do.
We do. Okay. And we do have a number of speakers, so we could do the one and then have the other ones ready.
So we have Bonnie Maffei, and then Raquel Buchanan is after.
There's somebody online too, Charlotte Allen.
Okay.
How many do we have of those? Because we're on the 20-minute.
6, 7, so it's 21 minutes. That's okay.
Yeah.
Bonnie. Maybe we'll be online. Okay. Is Bonnie online? Okay, we should come back and see that.
You haven't signed it in Q&A, she came in part of yellow, so the person. So if you. It's online.
She is.
Okay, I'm here. Oh, can you hear me? So I am a parent and I'm also a yard duty, and Friday we had a very scary incident with a child, and Will was also there, so he saw exactly what we had to deal with firsthand. Getting rid of counselors is like the worst idea ever. I don't have any education in dealing with mental health issues, but the
thing that I had to deal with on Friday, which was me and another coworker and the counselor who are all on the chopping block. And we all sat there and dealt with this poor kid who just couldn't figure it out. And it broke my heart. And for Will to be there and experience it and see what we deal with mental health on a daily basis is something you guys really, really should consider. Because if I can't help that kid and Mrs. Huff can't help that kid and Will can't help that kid, my coworker can't help that kid, who's going to help them? If we can't help him, who's going to help him? And we're trying to calm him down. Nobody can calm him down. But I just don't understand how to me as a staff member, I'm more of those kids' friend than I am their staff. I have respect for those kids. Those kids have respect for me. I don't want to lose my position as a yard duty. I don't want Miss Huff to lose her position as a counselor. I don't want anyone to lose any position. So just really think about that. And if you were at the district that day and you happened to see what was going on, you should understand that what we dealt with that day was very, very, very scary. So please really think about that. Thank you.
The next speaker is Raquel Buchanan.
Raquel Buchanan, lead mental health counselor. In October of last year, I had a meeting with Dr. Williams to inquire about the district's plan for social, emotional, and mental health programs in our schools and how we can make better use of the lead mental health counselor position. In that meeting, she tasked me with an assignment to develop a model for a program and how I envision that program being ran. I referenced our existing LCAP, thank you, Will Lucy, and developed a cohesive plan that was used to form an application for the Measure K grant that Dr. Williams, John Bartfield, and I worked on. It's interesting that I'm standing here now. Whatever you decide, I want to thank you for the opportunity to work in your school district, and I appreciate the experience. I am confident that there is no one more qualified than I am to lead a mental health program. I am one of the best in my field, and any school district would benefit greatly from having me. Thank you.
The next speaker is Calypso Camille.
Hi, everyone. I'm Calypso Camille. I spoke before, but I'm one of the student board representatives for the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. And as you all know, I'm in 8th grade. In order to become a board representative, I do have to be in 8th grade. So I won't be a part of this district once the decision to either cut or keep the counselors and other staff members take place. But I can connect with all the students, teachers, parents, volunteers, and community members who will be here when those changes take place, because I was here when we didn't have this essential support system. I don't know how the district expects to nurture curiosity, inspire joy, confidence, and achievement in learning if students struggle to concentrate on their studies if they're bothered by mental health issues and other social emotional problems. The possibility of students dropping out or giving up on learning because of their fragile mental state impacts their future on a whole other level. It also doesn't just have to do with the students being in a healthy mental state to learn. It also does have to do with sometimes life and death. A scary incident, as Bonnie did mention, happened at Valleymar, my school, where a student really had a lot of troubled time, and they did have a really fragile mental state, and the students, Miss Huff, nobody can calm him down. And that just shows how much mental health is like a big part. And yeah, it doesn't have to do with that. It could lead to violence, such as dangerous threats towards people and even suicide if they don't have this support system available. And that is clearly not an exaggeration, as that example happened, as Bonnie did mention. And this is an attempt in my own school this month because that student didn't have the emotional support they needed at that time. And no, the children are not fine. We're all recovering from the pandemic, but that does not mean that students won't need someone to emotionally support them, especially if counselors were added through funds for post-pandemic mental health problems. Students can't keep coming to teachers to talk to them about these issues. They are not their therapists. Teachers are too busy with work and other like issues to deal with these problems. It's crucial for a staff member to work specifically for these problems. Even if it's not an option for the district to keep the counselors and you decide to cut them, please take into account the mental state of students and how it's a huge issue that won't go away just because COVID is. If you're taking away a part of the solution to this problem, please find a new one. Students desperately need counselors as a social emotional support system because of their already fragile mental state. Removing them risks their future through dropping out and giving up, not just on academics, but on their life. There's no point in trying to make a better education for students if they don't get anything out of it because their mental health can shatter at any time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kim Rodriguez.
I don't have a fancy speech. I don't have anything typed up. I have 3 students who go to school right here. I live in this community. I think it is egregious. I think it is shameful. I'm looking at moving out of Pacifica because of the budget cuts. Clearly, our students are not the priority. Numbers are a priority. If our students were a priority, you'd focus on finding solutions, not intimidating parents at meetings. I'm shocked that I'm shocked at what our teachers are paid. I'm shocked that our counselors are the first to get cut from the budget. The students who need the most support are the least supported. And it's very evident by what the priority is in this budget. The priority is for the top 10 to keep their wallets fat, not to put the students first. You take this position, you put the hours in, you want to support these students, then show it. I don't know where else to go from here, but if this is the direction this school district is going, we can't stay here. My students will not succeed. My children will not have a successful future if this is where our school district is going. I don't have anything else.
The next speaker is Dominique Divine. Thank you.
Many have come before me tonight and said more eloquent speeches than I could bring today. But I come here as a very proud parent of Valimar School, as a parent of recipients of special education. It is very hard to be a student. It's very hard to be a student today. Our counselors are integral to our ecosystems. I have heard from our 2 wonderful advocates and representatives here tonight how bullying is a big problem in our schools. And I see that firsthand. I also see how much our counselor at Valimar, Ms. Huft, has scaled and modeled so many different strategies for our students to be able to communicate better, to have a toolkit that they can better manage themselves and their own emotions. These are tools we didn't have when I grew up here. I've been here for 40 years. This is a beautiful town. We have a lot to offer. We are not doing service to our children. I would like us to look for more alternatives. I would like to understand what being in the red means, because I saw the 3 buckets and I understand that we don't want to be in the red, but I don't understand what the ramifications of that are. I was not able to get my question answered when we were asking questions, and I apologize. I am not used to the forum here. I am a working parent. I'm a working parent of 2. And I just urge you all to do better for our kids. I would like to help you do better. However, I may be able to do that. I would like to understand, for those of us that have counseling services written into our IEP and 504 plans, how those are going to be maintained after these cuts may take place. That is all I have for you tonight, and I really appreciate the time. I appreciate those who have been working very hard to balance the budget. I know these jobs are not easy, but we need to do more and we need to do better. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Is it okay if we have somebody call you and reach out to you about the budget a little more and the ramifications?
Sure.
I'm not sure if that's Josie. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kim Rodriguez.
We just did.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
I already said
That was exactly. Sorry about that. The next speaker is Charlotte Allen.
Charlotte?
She might be online.
She's online.
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Hi. Okay, here's the deal. And frankly, I am likely saying this more so for the families new to our district who might actually believe this is a new problem or a surprise to our district, when in fact, we've had this funding conversation time and time again. The COVID relief funding is and always has been temporary. In an effort to support students as they returned to a sense of normalcy, school-specific counselors were hired as opposed to shared counselors that came to individual school campuses on a rotating basis. Not ideal, I know. So when problems arose, they would either have to be addressed by other staff members or a placeholder would remain until the counselor was back on campus to handle. Talk about not meeting students where they're at. The COVID relief funds gave schools the support they needed all along. And if anyone at the district level was paying attention, they could see over the last 3 years how invaluable counseling is, especially at the middle school level. This gave the powers that be 3 years to pay attention to the positive impact and 3 years to determine where funding might come from should they choose to keep this vital staff. This district is no stranger to time and funding management failures, though. Recall the last bond passed and the years it took them to spend a single cent. Recollect the tens of thousands of dollars spent to rehab the Ocean Shore field, only to see it dead and dangerous only months later. Be sure to take notice of the money repeatedly spent on consultants, all to find ourselves in the same situation I recant a whopping decade ago. This district repeatedly makes the same mistakes over and over again, and then threatens state takeover when we, the community, has rightful issue with underpaying teachers, cutting staff and services, and failure to maintain our infrastructure. Stop threatening and be the change. Hard decisions need to be made, no doubt about it. However, cutting vital services to children is not the way when, after all, children are supposed to be our top priority. You have asked us to raise funds to supplement what the district can't afford, and we have risen. You've asked us to pass bonds, so we led grassroots campaigns and rallied. And now we are begging for fundamental services for our children. And what do we get? Another threat and now cuts. Board of Trustees, as your constituent, I ask that you hold district employees accountable. I need you to decipher who is part of the problem and who is part of the solution. We had years to analyze the benefits of school site counselors. We've had a lifetime of understanding where the money comes and, maybe more importantly, doesn't come from. We've had massive opportunities to analyze our funding sources and try out solutions. Cutting counselors and supervision is irresponsible and should be unnecessary. Shame on our district and shame on our chief business officer.
Okay, that's it. We're for Carla. And we're on 12C resolution number 2024-03-13.
Put 2 items down.
Oh. Sorry, Tara.
Okay.
Yeah, she's looking for it.
I see. I thought it was
Okay.
4.
Oh. Okay, I'll be fast. Again, I don't know if I don't anticipate change anyone's mind, but I'm just going to call out the importance of counselors one more time. I'm going to give you a couple examples of what it's like to have an embedded
their everyday counselor. And I should say, I think mostly our counselors are serving kids without IEPs for the most part. If there, this little boy named Joey, he does not like to go to school, does not like it. When we have an embedded counselor, Joey can meet with that counselor when he gets there in the morning and they can play Uno for the first hour and then he can go to class. Joey, with not an on-site embedded counselor, hangs on to his mom. He hangs onto the car seat belt. He yells, he cries. Joey's mom cannot take it. There's no safe person at school to leave Joey with. So they go home every day for many, many days or weeks. And that is money lost to the district on an ADA basis. Kelly, she doesn't want to do her writing assignment. She's in class and she's having a hard time. And the teacher says, Kelly, do you need to go take a break with the counselor? So she does, and she talks to the counselor and they come up with a strategy of Kelly doesn't mind writing. She just doesn't want to write about that topic. So that she writes about her favorite ponies. Kelly, without an embedded counselor, ends up getting upset, throwing her notebook, throwing her desk, and then she can't stay at school. And then Kelly becomes an expensive problem to the district. She might need another placement, or she just never wants to go back to school because she's so embarrassed. Mitzi has trouble communicating with her peers. She might have mild autism, but she doesn't have an IEP. She may not even have an 504, but she has trouble communicating with peers and making friends. With an embedded counselor, Mitzi might go to a small group, tier 2 support, work on some social skills, maybe as a first or second grader working on some social skills. And she gets to know that safe person at school and they can practice too. Mitzi without an embedded counselor doesn't get any help until she's 11 or 12, 13 years old, and she doesn't know how to communicate with her peers. She feels isolated, she feels bullied, and then she has a mental health crisis and she doesn't get to go to school, and then she becomes an expensive endeavor for the school district. I've had a child similar to Mitzi without with not an embedded, and at the same time at a different school, embedded, different school district as she was older. It's a big difference when you have that safe person at school every day. It keeps the kid cheap. It keeps the kid at school. It saves money to the district ultimately, I think, and it's least restrictive. And maybe that child never even needed an IEP. Maybe they just needed some skill building. So I think you're going to make the decision you're going to make, but I don't know if there's any room for, since you got the bond now, that maybe covers some unexpected. I'll end.
Okay, so now we have Carla presenting the resolution. Number 2024-03-13A of intention to terminate certificated employees due to a reduction of particular kinds of services and determination of tie-breaking criteria. And this is an action item.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Williams, and community of Pacifica School District. This evening, it is recommended that per Education Code Section 44955, the Board of Trustees adopt Resolution 2024-03-13A of intention to terminate certificated employees due to a reduction of particular kinds of services no later than the beginning of next school year, and adopt the following tie-breaking criteria to determine the district needs should it become necessary to determine the order of termination for certificated employees who first rendered paid service to the district on the same day. The following particular services are to be reduced or discontinued no later than the beginning of the following school year. School counselors, 2.0 FTE. Administrator of special projects, 1.0 FTE. General education teachers, 5.5 FTE. Response to instruction and intervention teacher, 0.5 FTE. And I'd like to answer any questions.
So my question is the same as last time. This is so that you can give notice.
Correct. This is to give notice before Friday.
Before Friday. This is also if the funding, and just so I'm clear, we are looking for alternative funding for the counselors. This is not the 4 counselors, and this is not the special education counselor. But we are still looking for alternative funding that could come in before next school year. We are consistently looking. I just want to make sure, because I'm like, I know we have, this is not, like I said, it's not an easy job. We want our kids to have counselors. We're not sitting up here like just trying to take away services. We're trying to find a solution that we can move forward fiscally sound. So just so I'm clear, this is give notices March 15th. If we are able to fund, we will.
If something were to change fiscally.
Fiscally.
Yeah.
So we're still looking for those resources. Okay, that was my question.
Carla, can you just clarify the school counselors and the lead behaviorist? Or not the lead behaviorist, the lead counselor? So how many would there be in total?
Yeah, it would be 2.4 FTE school counselors. This does not affect the lead mental health counselor.
So that would be like 3.5 then. Is that what you're saying?
No, it would be two positions, school counselors that are at the school sites.
How many does that leave? That leaves the lead mental health
That
counselor and
4 school counselors and the lead mental health counselor.
so we would still have 4 and the lead. So we would have 5 counselors still in the district.
Yes,
With these 2 gone, there's still 5 in the district.
correct.
Any other questions?
No questions. And I do just want to acknowledge that this amended resolution came from also the input of those budget collaborative meetings, because this again looks very different from the resolution that was brought, I guess, a couple weeks ago. And so I want to acknowledge that and then thank the community again for their recommendation.
This is amended, but it is amended to support the direction that was given to eliminate the deficit.
Not to keep the counselors. We're keeping 5 counselors. So we're keeping counselors.
Yes, we're keeping 4 school counselors and 1 lead mental health counselor.
So we will have counselors.
And the
We
lead-
won't have as many, but we will have counselors.
And the lead mental health counselor does a lot of the work with the special ed families.
Yes, and she also leads the school counselor team.
Developing the programs, yeah.
And I just want to address that we're not lying. We're, what the budget collaborative, we had 2 board members there, so it wouldn't be a board meeting, because then if we have a board meeting, we can't communicate with anybody. I don't even think I'm supposed to be communicating.
No.
Never mind. There's so many rules.
That's 4 counselors and 1 manager. It's not 5 counselors.
Can you explain what the lead, so I want to clarify with you, since we cannot talk to the audience, Carla, that the lead counselor does most of the servicing of the special ed families.
Yes.
Yes.
The lead mental health counselor supports students with mental health needs on their IEPs, but also works with the school counselors at the sites as a team developing their skills.
So it's 2 things, or John would probably be better to.
Sorry, it's complex. Is students with IEPs are actually served not by the lead mental health counselor, by 2 PERMs therapists. They are not school counselors. They are, and ERN stands for Educationally Related Mental Health Services, which is the IEP service. They only serve students with the IEP, with counseling of their IEP.
Okay, the reason I mention that because I've been in the special ed meeting where Raquel has been leading all of the training and all of the meetings with the families.
What she's done is she's become a resource for those families and incredible number of families across the district. So she presents, and she's very accessible.
Because I was saying that just because I've been in the meetings with her, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I just have one comment. I don't want us to leave this board meeting and then come back next board meeting and they said they cut all the counselors. I just want to make sure we're clear that our students will have counseling services next year. And there are going to be 4 counselors within the district.
Yeah.
4 school counselors and 1 lead mental health counselor.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that, so I don't get a comment next week that said, or next meeting that says we cut all the counselors. I just want to make sure that that's very clear.
Yeah, it was kind of lost in translation.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so this is an action item. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution 2024-03-18-A?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
And motion passes.
Okay, so now we are on 12D with John. Approval of district transportation plan operations, and it's an action item as well.
Thank you, and good evening again. This is a routine item that we have yearly where we approve our district's transportation plan. There have been no changes since last year to the plan. The plan is a federal requirement because we are required to transport students experiencing homelessness, students with disabilities, and also transportation for unduplicated students. So we, for the unduplicated students, we take part in the SamTrans bus pass program, which we distribute to those students. Transportation for students with disabilities is in the IEP, and we have our vans. And McKinney-Vento, we also have students on vans, and then we do have to contract with a couple of agencies for transportation for those students as well. So happy to answer any questions, but this is pretty much laying out our requirements for transportation.
I know it's a requirement, but how often do you use the transportation for students?
How
many students?
Yeah.
Every day.
Oh, yeah. You know, each van, I could get that to you. Each van has about like 8 or 9 students on it. So we have 3 vans.
With the ones that are given the SamTrans passes, are they of a certain age, or are they given an extra pass for a parent to take them to?
That's a great question. Let me come back to you on that. I don't remember having an extra.
Assume you wouldn't give a second grader a.
Exactly. So it might just be the middle. Let me look at that too.
In other words, looking into getting a pass for a parent or an adult.
Right.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, and this is an action item. Do I have a motion to approve the Pacifica School District Transportation Plan? Second? All right, and we are on the recap. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss for future possible agenda items or recap meeting?
I would love to, in a future agenda item, to talk about our process for thinking about bullying prevention. As a former teacher in California as a state has a number of ideas and recommendations on how they suggest schools think about bullying. And the crux of it, when I was a teacher here in California, was it's a community-wide effort because it's not meant to fall on 1 or 2 people in the building. It's meant to fall on the community. And that really is a best practice around bullying prevention. And so I'd love to hear how we might, just given the feedback from the students, what we might put in place, what we might think about to really handle the functions.
And I was going to piggyback on that, and maybe while we have our two student representatives, it could be sometime soon, not like really soon, but so they can partake in that.
Yes.
Anything else? Does anybody have any recaps? I'll recap. No, I will recap. I don't lie, and I try to be transparent as possible. And that's just how I've always been. And I assume all of these because I've never heard anybody lying. I do want to comment on the rumors that I've heard out in the community. Lots of rumors, and I don't know how to stop those. The rumors about things that happen at schools, about the board members, and it's just not true. And if anybody ever has a problem with one of us, they can always reach out to us and talk to us. Specifically with the superintendent's budget collaboration, there were only 2 board members that could attend, so it wouldn't become a board meeting. Once you have that 3rd member, it's a board meeting. And once you have 3 members, we can't talk to the public. And so that's why there were only 2 members there. And also it was based on recommendations because we didn't have our other full board there. And, you know, they have their own thinking and know the material. And so it wasn't guaranteed that, you know, we would take all of the recommendations. But I feel like after what we passed that we met quite a few of them. Yeah. And, you know, it's just unfortunate, but we're trying to staff to enrollment now. And, you know, that might be something that can help us along the way.
I just, because you brought that up, I just wanted to say, I don't like the board being accused of intimidating parents.
Yeah.
I really did not like that comment. And I don't think that, well, we as a board, we want to do what's best for the community. We want to do what's best for the students. And we have to be fiscally responsible. And somebody was saying, well, the last 10 years, nothing has changed. Well, we're changing. That's what we're doing. And it's tightening the belt. It's making the changes that haven't been made for so long. And so I want to point out, yes, that's what we're doing. And it's uncomfortable and change is uncomfortable, but we're doing it for a better future for our whole district. So I hope that people actually stay for the whole meeting, actually go to the budget meetings, you know, participate and see what we're very transparent. We give the information. It's like the 2 meetings before when I said, please stay and listen to the budget presentation. And I'm happy I said it because some people stayed, but usually people just get up and leave. So we are giving you the information that we're given. We're making decisions that are best for the district. And so I hope that, you know, you guys will see some improvement in the next couple of years. But right now we're going through change and we're going through growing pains.
And a good change for us is we'll try to communicate more out to the community.
And to follow up on Trustee Doggett's statement, yesterday I was at my daughter's singing thing at Sunset Ridge, and a number of parents came up and talked to me about questions that they have on the budget. And somebody mentioned that they're a working mom with 3 kids. I'm a working mom with 3 kids. It costs me $30 an hour for a nanny to be here. And it's difficult for an average parent to come out to a board meeting. I mean, like, it's a big investment that I'm making, and I can't imagine parents en masse are willing to make that investment. And so I do think it's important for us to find ways to better communicate out this information. A lot of the parents that came up to me last night, they didn't know anything about the budget. And it's difficult, you know, when you're kind of caught like that to like, okay, so the history of Pacifica financial, it's a difficult thing to communicate in a very short time. And so I do think we need to find just more ways to get this information out. I agree. Parents shouldn't be caught surprised when they hear about, you know, a staff member here, a staff member there. They should understand what the district is facing. Our principals, I think, should be also convening sessions with their community to talk about it's not that there's no district. There's just the schools. That's all there is. There's no such thing as a district outside of those schools. And so I really do think the principals need to help convene their communities to make sure that they are aware of what's happening, what the long-term impact is, what their school's enrollment looks like year after year after year. Sunset Ridge has gone down in enrollment year after year. And, the principal makes us aware of that. And that's really important. That the whole school community knows, because it is hard to come to this from 5 to 8 p.m. for an average working parent who put in a full days of work. And I really appreciate that. So I think we need to just extend what we do and what we communicate more through the school communities.
I think I mainly heard comments on why would you want to hire reserve? And besides for the obvious of, special if emergencies come up, that the higher reserve we have, then we can start paying that down in salaries to the employees.
That's right.
So for years, we've always heard, why don't we pay them more? Well, this is one way that we want to be able to assure to pay them more. So.
Right, that's it. Okay, so the meeting's adjourned at 8:11.
I know. Sure. Yeah, he's working tonight.
Recording stopped.